Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to all. Welcome to Faith, Lies, and Confusion. I am Godless Reggie, and this is NJ. How are you today, NJ?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Good, good, good. Can't complain. Summer's coming. It's almost all the way here, so I'm happy. So today's episode is titled Toledot Yeshu. This is the title that NJ actually came up. Um, Thank you, by the way. It's an interesting book about the life of Jesus Christ from a non-biblical point of view. I was completely unaware of this document. Um, I like the way it's spelled, and Jay just said she was too. I like the way it's spelled, how it says Jeshu, because I like to tell people whenever people, I say, when I debate with people when I tell them that the J was not created during the times of Jesus Christ, and then I tell them when it was created. They're like, oh, well, his name was Jeshua. No, it's just Jeshu. And I think that proves it. So, what all do you know about this particular document, NJ, if anything?
Absolutely nothing. Matter of fact, I'm hoping that you are a better student than myself and you took it a little bit further than I did. Because I came across this when I was sitting in a live a few days ago, and
Hmm.
I'm listening to someone trying to explain an alternate reality for this character named Jesus Christ. And you know me, I love whenever somebody brings up Jesus Christ because that's my favorite character, Jesus, in my world. In my world, that is Jesus, right? So I was like, oh, what they saying about Jesus? So they was trying to explain it, and everybody else who was countering the argument saying there was no such document, and they were like, "Yes, it is. There's a book, and it's written." And I'm like, "What book could they possibly be talking about?" So you know me, I start typing all kinds of questions until I came across this book that you can pronounce and I cannot. I cannot pronounce that. I feel a little way that you managed to learn how to pronounce it, and I did not. I did not. So anyway, that's how I found it because I was like, wow. And then I remember that movie that Jay Z did about a different kind of Jesus Christ, and
Uh
I
huh.
remember how everybody went haywire a couple years back when that movie came out. It was like, don't go see it. Don't give Jay Z your money. And I was just like, well, wait a minute. All Jay Z did was telling us an account of a book. Anyway, I'm gonna be quiet now. Go ahead. That was it. That was all.
Okay, I think that was a very, very, very good explanation. Um, this is what I'll say, right? I've never personally heard about Toledot Yeshu. I've never heard that word before. Well, Yeshu, I obviously have. Shout out to the Rebel Rabbi for teaching me that. She's actually a rabbi. She's a Jewish lady. She's in the community. Excellent person. Um, but what I will say is, again, I tell you again, I've never particularly heard of this exact document, but that's not 100% true. And I'm gonna tell you why, right? So I have heard stories without a name, with no title, of some book that talks about Jesus's life. And this is just from me being in live situations, right? And from my understanding, what I gathered from these conversations, because these are probably 10, 20, 30 conversations, that Jesus wasn't so much of a great person, right? Now I haven't read this book now, right? I just heard of this title yesterday, so I'm not trying to make the claim of anything. These are just things that I've heard second and third hand account, right? So that Jesus as a child was basically a murderer, that he had a bad temper and things like that, and that he wasn't always good. I did not know that this was the document, and I still don't know that. Right? I'm just going to go ahead and take a guess, um, because the book, whenever it was mentioned in previous conversations, it was mentioned as an alternative document. Right? Um, I think that's what that is, and I think that's what this is going to be. Hopefully, anyway, so I can seem like I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Right, right. But what I love is this phrasing right here. The text portrays Jesus in a controversial light, depicting him as an illegitimate child, which he was,
Hmm.
according to their rules, uh, who practiced sorcery. And when
Hmm.
you look up the etymology of sorcery, he was indeed practicing it according to the story as it is currently written, even if it's been written several different ways. depending on which text and chapter you're reading. But I digress. And met a disgraceful end. And let's admit it, nobody in 2025 would like to die in that same manner. Well, unless they are trying to martyr themselves, but that's another story for another day.
Exactly. I started to question people lately about crosses and things like that, not from a traditional perspective, right? I've heard people say in the past that whenever people wear crosses and things like that, it's idol worship, right? And by definition, it definitely is. But that's not my point, right? My point is this, right? Say, for instance, if we're talking about a family member of yours, a father, uncle, brother, whatever. I don't even know why I'm using a man. I'm just maybe because I haven't. I don't know. But would you literally wear a bullet around your neck if your father or mother or sister or brother was shot? Would you do that?
No, I don't think unless it was the bullet that did the shooting, but that would come across as a little morbid. Like, why do you wear that bullet? Oh, well, this is the bullet that shot and killed my loved one, and I wanted to keep it around my neck forever.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. I don't see the logic in that. In from me knowing more things now and studying the subject, uh, I know that we haven't. Well, I ain't gonna say we, because I'm excluding myself from that shit. That human beings post 2025 years ago haven't always worn crosses, or that hasn't always been the symbol for Christianity. It hasn't always used to be a fish, from my understanding, uh, and so on and so forth. So I think that's just a modern day thing to do.
One of the old wives' tales that I like is hexing of objects. Um, some people who practice, they would have like a ring that meant a whole lot to them. So they would have it hexed or cursed in some manner. And the idea is it's supposed to be buried with them. But Caucasians like to dig up grave sites and display these things that they find because they think they're interesting and fascinating. And so when I see people who embrace wearing crosses and other symbolism that they don't know the whole story to, but they just like it because of the one story that they heard about the symbol, I'd be like, you might you might want to think about that a little bit deeper. I'm not saying that you got to be a believer. I'm just saying that there's always a little bit of truth in the fable.
Right. I think that most people need to do study everything. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now if people really just looked at the history of the situation. Right. If you really just started from where they say it started from to now, we wouldn't be talking about this, because you would know it's not true. But I'm gonna do a little bit of reading on this because I don't want to bias the situation.
But
Or
I'm completely biased. So please, by all means, you go ahead and be unbiased. And then I'm going to come right behind you and I'm going to be biased as hell.
okay. So let me. I'm gonna go to one of my favorite sources, Wikipedia, to read a little bit about this document. Give me 1 second. Okay. So according to Wikipedia, the Toledot Yeshu, which is pronounced the Sefer Toledot Yeshu, the book of the generations, history, life of Jesus, often abbreviated as Toledot Yeshu, is a medieval text which presents an alternative anti-Christian view as well as a disputed biography of Jesus Christ. It exists in a number of different versions, none of which is considered either canonical or normative with rabbinic literature, but which appear to have been widely circulated in Europe and the Middle East in the medieval period. A 15th century Yemenite version of the text was titled Masa Yashu, or the episode of Jesus, in which Jesus is described as being the son of Joseph, the son of Pantera. The account portrays Jesus as an impostor. The Teledot portrays Jesus, known as Yeshu by the author, as an illegitimate child who practiced sorcery, taught a heretical Judaism, seduced women, and died a shameful death. Interestingly, the author also shows a paradoxical respect for Jesus. Perhaps surprisingly, instead of denying the miracles that the New Testament claims Jesus had performed, Toledot Yeshu doubles down. The difference is that the authors of the New Testament portray these events as proof of divine power, while in the polemic, his powers are attributed to sacrilegious sorcery. In some versions of Toledot Yeshu, Jesus is noted to have revived a man from the dead, turned clay statues into flying birds, and lifted his arms like the wings of an eagle, ascending towards the heavens for an airborne battle with Judah Iscariot. As Joseph Dan notes in the Encyclopedia Judaica, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, but it's Judaica. The narrative in all versions treats Jesus as an exceptional person who, from his youth, demonstrated unusual wit and wisdom, but disrespect towards his elders and the sages of his age. Robert Van Voorst calls the Toledot Yeshu a record of popular polemic run wild. The Toledot's profane portrayal of the figure Christians revere as divine has historically fueled Christian hostility towards Judaism, while also reflecting the polemical and defensive context in which many medieval Jewish communities preserved their identity under Christian dominance. Wow, that's a mouthful. Pause. But I think when I was looking up last night, think. I know last night when I did a wee bit of research on it, the first conclusion that I came to was, why have I never heard of this book? And the second thing that I thought was, like, truthfully, the way that they got it set up, just off of what I just read, makes more fucking sense than the Bible to me. How you feeling, Jay? You're muted.
Well, of course it makes more sense than the darn Bible. Everything, anything makes more sense than the Bible. That was their last attempt at a new narration, and they still couldn't agree. They still couldn't agree. How you gonna come up with the King James version of the Bible? He's like, hey, let's bring in the demons, the witches, the satyrs, the unicorns, everything. Let's bring it all together in one book. They should be able to make everybody happy. They did all of that, and they still could not find harmony. Still,
Right. So far, the reason why, my opinion, the reason why I feel like they don't accept it is because they're starting to say shit about him that they don't like. Like, it doesn't present him in the light as all loving. Even though the Bible, once you really read the motherfucker, it doesn't either. But this one just, to me, I'm just going to base off that paragraph because I haven't read the book, right? Based off that paragraph, it doesn't show him as an upstanding citizen. It doesn't show him as a virgin. It doesn't show him um, of not sinning, and it doesn't show him in a respectful person to other people. So they don't want to accept it.
what I love the most about it is the earliest known fragments were found in the Cairo uh, Geniza, written in Babylonian Aramaic, but 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 um, it circulated orally for centuries before being transcribed. It circulated orally for, how do they know it circulated orally for centuries? Who told them?
Right. Especially if you just said that its earliest fragments were Aramaic. Because my thought, I don't know if this is true, but Aramaic almost seems like a lost language. Am I right?
And it, in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, it's still lost because a lot of the translations that have been done are
Hmm.
disputed, but
Hmm.
it's it's still there. It exists.
Right, right.
That's
I
about the
agree it
best way I
exists.
can put it.
Yeah, I agree it exists. But how can you say on one hand, right, it was passed down through oral tradition, right?
Right.
But simultaneously say the first earliest writings of it that we found are Aramaic. Okay, well that's an old ass fucking language. So which one? Now that's, but one thing that you did say that stuck out though was, again, I have to go back to my first thought. Why does no Christian believe this book that's written in the fucking language that he allegedly spoke? Why don't y'all believe it? But you believe another book that was written in a language he does not understand. What's more likely to be
But
true?
they understand it. They understand it, and they believe that if this character Jesus was here today in 2025, that Jesus would read this in English and find it way more enlightening than he ever did when he read it in Aramaic.
That's dumb. That is dumb. Listen, I've even got into arguments and debates with people, and they're like, "Oh, but Jesus, he spoke Greek. He knew Greek because that was the language that was commonly spoken at that time. Most people over there they spoke it. Okay, well, you got it from the
Do you
Romans, right?
know how many people over there did not like the Greek? Like, oh my God, nobody liked them. Like, okay, this is how much they did not like Greek back in the day. Like, you know how I tell stories about pirates and shit like that, and
Hmm.
sometimes they would get a hold of women, and if they turned out to be Greek, they would rather throw them into the ocean. That's how much they brought no price. Nobody wanted Greek as
I
a
mean,
slave, a concubine, anything.
well, I didn't know that part, but I could see how nobody would want them around because I mean, you're an invader, right? No one likes an invader. Then when you're pressing your language, you're pressing your philosophy. Oh, y'all the first civilized human beings and shit. It's a form of colonization, so of course, no one's gonna want you around. Now that last part, I'm definitely not saying you're lying because I can't prove or disprove that at any way. But it's very hard to see somebody turning down some pussy. It's very hard.
They turned down those ones. They
It must have
turned
been a
down those ones.
bad product. That must have been a terrible product because I cannot see, especially in them times. You know what I mean?
Well, if
Mhm.
you are a ruler of that time and you have your household set up, and whoever is running your household brings in your concubine, and just one of those concubines just so happens to be of Greek origin. Uh, Basically, the story was anything that came from that Greek origin would kill out all the rest of your bloodline. Like
Mm,
the Greeks back then had a reputation of once you allow them to breed in your bloodline, they killed all the rest of your bloodline. That's where they got the bad reputation, and nobody wanted them even for that.
I can see that. I can also see, just on a basic level, that a person wouldn't want to procreate with them. Is that the right word? They want to have
Yeah,
a child. I can see that. Some people are like that. Some people like, I'm not, I fuck you, but I'm not gonna have no kid with you. I mean, even still today, you know, I might be like that too. Shit.
I know
But
I'm like that. Achieving the orgasm is one thing. Procreation, that's completely different topic
diff-
and
different
subject.
story. That comes with responsibility and things like that. So, I can't. Just not with any. I mean, at this age, I'm not trying to do that anyway. But that's another subject. But I'm gonna read a little bit more. I just forget. I don't know why I'm yelling.
Well, you stop
I
trying to
don't know. I
put
feel
me
like
to sleep. I am well rested today. Stop it.
me too. Me too. So I'm gonna pick up right where I was at. Then I'm gonna play a video about this document. Okay, a second. Picking all the wrong ones. Okay, so until the 21st century, with few exceptions, mainstream Jewish and Christian scholars paid little attention to the Toledot Yeshu. The opinion of noted advocate Christian Jewish reconciliation, Father Edward H. Flannery, is representative. This I can't even pronounce this word. Scurilius Fable of the Life of Jesus is a medieval work, probably written down in the 10th century. Though its contents enjoyed a certain currency in the oral tradition of Jewish masses, it was almost totally ignored by official or scholarly Judaism. Anti-Semites have not failed to employ it as an uh, illustration of the blasphemous character of the synagogue. This disregard has recently shifted towards a growing level of discussion in the text's possible scholarly use as a window into the early history of Jewish Christian relations, composition, and dating. Recent scholarship has drawn attention to the date of the origin of the Toledot Yeshu. The earliest layers are considered to have been manufactured orally, and written source material of the Toledot Yeshu is much older than the work itself. As Flannery states, most offensive to Christians were Jewish insults to the person of Christ, about which St. Justin, Tertullian, Eusebius, Hippolytus, or Origen complain. In his Against Celsius, AD 248, Origen provides an idea of the caliber of the insults. Jesus, illegitimate son of Pantera, a Roman legionary, was a charlatan and a magician killed by the Jews. After his death, marvels were invented by his disciples concerning him. Other tales of a still lower grade circulated in which Jesus figured as a bandit and once possessed. At a later age, these obscenities were compiled in the infamous Toledot Yeshu. The first textual evidence consists of fragments of Aramaic manuscripts discovered in Cairo. A recent study reports that more than 100 manuscripts of the Toledot exist, almost all of them late medieval, the oldest manuscript being from the 11th century. The earliest stratum of composition was probably in Aramaic. Now that's weird. There are Recesions extants in Hebrew and later versions in Judeo-Persian and Arabic, as well as Jiddisch and Lydian, which is Judeo-Spanish. The date of composition cannot be determined with certainty, and there are conflicting views as to what markers denote dates. For instance, some manuscripts of the Toledot, called the Helena Recession and unattested before the 13th century, refer to Christian festivals and observances that only originated after the 4th century. This does not account for all of the manuscripts, and those that were created earlier do not mention the festivals. In Origen's Contra Celium, likely written in the 3rd century AD, Origen quotes Celsus as calling Jesus the son of Pantera, which would point to Celsus' knowledge of the Toledot Yeshu or its source material. In his incredible shrinking Son of Man, Robert P. I mean, excuse me. Robert M. Price states that the Toledot Yeshu is independent of second century Jewish Christian gospel, and Alexander argues that the oral traditions behind the written version of the Toledot Yeshu might go all the way back to the formation of the canonical narratives themselves. Okay. Well, I mean, that's a lot. But at the same time, if you look at the canonization of the Bible as we have it today, it's the same situations, right? Every uh, thing that I said that's conflicting in that last statement, in that last paragraph I read, it's the same exact situations for the Bible itself as it is. So I don't see no difference.
Yeah, but I like the way I worded this. They worded this one because it's basically this writing that nobody knows where it came from. It's a rejection of Christian norms.
Hmm.
It's a counter narrative. The sorcery, the sorcery is supposed to be a metaphor for defiance, and we all know that the Jewish religion does love metaphors. It loves metaphors, loves it. And then illegitimacy of a social construct. If you are of a religion that does not believe in marriage in the church, for the church, yada yada yada, a lot of people bring up these writings for that reason because it's the writings is help to explain um, outside the sanctioned social order. Like, so if you don't want to be Jewish, you don't want to be Christian, and you don't want to be Islamic, it just it's something to help you counter whatever those three religions say. Does that make sense the way I worded it?
Hmm.
And then
Yes, definitely.
false prophets, false prophets. false prophets and systemic critique. False prophecy is a direct attack on Christian messianic claims. Non religious individuals who challenge religion authority might be seen as critics of institutional power. And that's what I like about it. And that's why I was researching it. And that's probably why you're going to see a whole lot of this all this week in all of my lesson plans. Ooh,
What this manuscript, this all of that.
yep, yep, yep. I just got to
So
find a
my thing,
copy of the manuscript because I don't know if you noticed, but it, they can tell you about it. But have you found a copy of it yet? A digital copy of it?
mm-mm.
That's what
I
I
ain't really
found.
look. I ain't try to really look either. So to be fair, I didn't look. But see, what you just said is annoying. It's annoying as fuck. Like, and I'm gonna tell you why. Why do people think, and why do they even put in those words that you just said? Because I don't believe something. How am I attacking you? How am I challenging your religion? I don't have to believe what a book says, or I can believe what this book says versus yours. Fuck you. Like, I don't see why these people think that they just get natural extra respect. I don't believe it. That
Oh,
is
oh,
crazy.
because it's not, see, the respect isn't for them. The respect is for the formalized religion. That's where the blasphemy comes in at. It's it's the disrespect to the formalized religion because to say that you disrespected an individual would require the ego, which goes against all religious teaching.
Exactly. Basically, they're making it seem like they're special. And you wait. Ain't nothing fucking special about you. I don't care what that book say, and I don't care what name is on it. I still don't believe it. It's not a personal attack on you. I've been thinking about something too, for the past couple of days too. That is the reason why I only prefer to have individual relationships with people, right? And what I mean by that is, it's like I don't see how everybody can have one mind. How everybody can just be one crew and think the same fucking way. It's always gonna be one person in that motherfucker that is not gonna go along with what everybody else said,
Right,
and that's
and you're
natural.
supposed to have a group
You're
that way.
supposed
There
to.
should always be one or two naysayers. Like Jesus Christ set it up that way himself. He had Judas. There was, and what was the other one that was always against him? Was it Paul or Peter? I don't remember. But there was always one or two that was looking at this character Jesus like, you sure you want to do that, homie? I don't think that's a good idea, homie.
Right. Like, people are just such followers. Like, what happened to individualism? Like, that's the only way things can get created and we can solve problems, if there's different minds that think differently. Like, everybody just go to church on Sunday. Oh, praise the Lord. Oh, praise the Lord. And me just saying, I don't believe that. You're attacked? Really?
How about, I'm married into the church. I'm the church's first official marriage. Okay, great. Oh, right. You're gonna come to the church. Wonderful. We're gonna make you the deaconess. Hey, slow down, partner. Slow down. Slow your roll. Look, 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 look. Just so my husband looks good on y'all's rolls, I pay my 10%. But that's as far as I'm going. I don't want to speak here. I don't want a title here. Uh I'm
I
gonna
don't want to
wear what
lie
I like
here.
to wear. I show up when my husband says that he needs me to show up and be a wife today. That's when I show up. I'm not gonna be here every Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. Uh, you. Everybody has to take a turn cleaning the church. Okay, great, great, great. You got one good cleaning out of me a month. That is it. And if I did not attend church all month, no, I'm not cleaning it the next month. No, I'm not doing it. Anyway, but I'm just saying, just it's these little bitty, 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 tiny things that made me realize, like, all the lies in the church. Like, I thought I was coming into the church. set up and behind because I was raised as a feral kid. I know nothing about these scriptures. I went outside and played. I observed nature. I learned about nature because that's where my curiosity went because I could see it. But when I got, married into this church and I'm like reading the laws and the bylaws and I'm looking around and I'm going, well, wait a minute, y'all worried about me wearing pants to church, but is your son, ain't that your daughter? Oh shit, ain't that your spouse? You know what? I need to stay away from all of y'all.
That last thing is confusing to me. That last part is confusing to me. Like, and I never really thought about it until I got a little bit older, right? Okay, so you don't want a woman dressing promiscuous because God said so, right? The object of clothing that will cover you up the most are pants. So you don't want them wearing pants, but you want them wearing a dress. So what if a strong wind blows? So why would they want them to do that? The
Wait a minute,
same
wait a minute.
reason why, if a person is to grape you, you know, they would just have to
Yep,
pay.
you just gotta pay them and marry them. That's it. Just pay the price. Put a
So
ring on their finger. Everybody's happy.
so raping isn't a sin,
Nope.
but her dressing like a hoe is,
Uh
or
huh.
coming to her natural temptations, her natural desires as a person.
Uh huh.
But as a man, according to the text, the
Mhm.
only way I'm in the wrong is if I mess with somebody that
Mhm.
belongs to someone else.
Mhm.
Belong. Oh, she's property.
Mhm.
Oh shit. She ain't supposed to say nothing in the church. She's supposed to listen to everything I say. Now that's cool. It's fit to my narrative,
If your
right?
husband in that church says, "I need you to go over there and do these acts upon that body right here and right now," no matter what religion you choose, the way the words are written, without question, you are to go and do that act.
Mhm. So no matter what, as long as I follow the narrative of this book and just maybe just talk to myself, just maybe just give my money. No, I ain't giving you my money, but no, I ain't gonna do that. I don't like that part, so I'm a hypocrite. Damn, I win. It's geared for men to win. So now I have to ask women again. You got why do you believe this shit?
Oh, you
Why?
didn't hear? You didn't hear? It's the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Wait a minute, we're past the dawning. We are in the age of Aquarius. And the women have decided that they have watched the men ruin the church. And that's why there's all this church hurt out there right now. So the women have come together and said, we're going to bring everybody back to the church and alleviate the hurt that the church has done. And we will now collect the 10% and we will do better things in the community with the 10% that we are begging you for as opposed to the 10% that the men was begging you for.
It was just like I like to speak on my own people because I can't really speak on other people too much. But man, black women are so indoctrinated. They're so indoctrinated. So much more than men. So much more. Right? And you just look at the church. Man, every time I look at a black church, boy, I listen, even if I was a believer, just me just looking at a video from church, I'm going straight to hell. Straight to hell. Sh- straight. Straight. Man, it's more ass in that motherfucker than a strip club.
And and
You you
and
can't stop
because
seeing
of
ass.
and because of my either or proclivities, Do you know how much trouble I get in when I go in a church? You
Right, your head
just
got to be like
you know,
everywhere.
and you know the old ladies in the church be like, is she looking at the women or the men? And they be like, I don't know. She looking at both of them. Which one is she trying? I I'll take them both. Is the
Listen,
bathroom free? What?
listen. The bottom line is this: if you ever wonder why you're single, it's because you don't go to church. That's why.
Oh yeah. Every time I
That
want a
is
new
the
husband,
reason.
I have found them at the church.
Mm, I swear, it's loaded in that motherfucker. But it's just I can't see one thing I've never mastered in my life, and I love people that can. You're right, right? Well, not. Well, it depends. It depends. It depends if they're in my life or not, right? But it's unique to me that some people can act and some people can be phony. I can't. And I give you a perfect example. If I don't like you, if I don't like you, I cannot hide it from you, even for a second. It'll show
Yeah.
all over my face. Oh my God. I can't
That's
do
why
it.
I like TikTok because I don't have to turn the camera on. So I can make all the faces I want. I can make all the different noises and sounds I want because the mic is on mute. Because you know, on TikTok, they're very, very particular about that rule. Just one person talking at a time. Turn your mic off. You've got background noise. Oh my gosh, that rain in the background is driving me insane. And I get it and I understand it all. That's not my problem. I just like the fact that I can hide on there, make all the faces I want, make all the little ticks and noises I want, and when it's my turn, turn the mic on and just be like, you said this, that didn't make sense. You said that, it didn't make sense. You said this, you need therapy. Just
Because look, because check this out. You know what I'm really doing? You doing it too, right? I'm literally wasting a natural born talent that I have, right? Think about it. I know that book. Maybe not like the back of my hand, but what preacher does? You've been to church before. You could tell just by the way that they do their sermon. They're not. They even tell you right the day before they study what they're gonna talk about, and they present it. Who can't do that? Who can't do that? But unfortunately, because of the issue that I
let me start going live some more, man. I'll get everybody talking about Sky Daddy and Jesus.
right,
I'll have everybody blaspheming all over.
right. So my thing is this, right? I just can't. Like I just said, my last point. I haven't mastered. I'll never. It's too late. Unfortunately, I don't know how to be phony. Right? I don't know how to be phony. So it's not gonna work. So I have to give preachers respect because say you went to most of them didn't, but say you went to theological college and shit, and you know the book like the back of your hand, and you know it. I know you don't believe it, right? I know you don't. So for you to put on that act and to get that bread like you getting, you up there with the gods because I don't know how you can sit there and just do that shit and just not be like, man, y'all motherfuckers stupid, man. Y'all still gonna give me money, and I know I probably would. It's but yeah, I'm gonna play a little video here. What you about to go to the bathroom, take a smoke or something? I got you. So let's play a little bit of YouTube videos. Have somebody else speak about it that is a little more educated about this document. Give me a second. I don't know what point of view this is coming from, so I'm not gonna say that this will be 100% factual because some all human beings are biased of what they like and what they don't. So this from a Christian point of view, I'm not sure. Give me 1 second.
Hello, I'm doing this video discussing some of the rabbinic understandings of the origins of Christianity. There's different places where we can look for rabbinic teachings regarding the origins of Christianity. One would be in Torah by the Rambam. Another one would be in the Talmud, where there's various little pieces of stories regarding Jesus. And then there's a collection of stories known as the Sefer Toledot Yeshu. And also related to that is a commentary to Avodah Zarah 10a by Rashi, where he goes into a discussion similar to what we hear about in Sefer Toledot Yeshu. For more information on these topics, I recommend classes by Rabbi Dr. Schneur Lehman, whose classes are available in Yeshiva University. This is the ninth Tevet that people typically mandated through the Shulchan Aruch as a fast day. And Rabbi Zeb Leff, who in his discussions of Pirkei Avot, he has a couple of classes on the early days, the life of Jesus and the discussions of Sefer Toledot Yeshu, a version that he has of this book. And so that's where you go for more information on this story. What I'm going to look at is specifically Sefer Toledot Yeshu and Rashi's commentary on Avodah Zarah 10a that discusses what happened after Jesus died. After Jesus died, and you have what's called the early church, how did we wind up with what we have? In following Rabbi Dr. Schneur Lehman's class, there's a source sheet available that's also available on the website with the class on it that gives the censored version of Rashi's commentary. And this is a spoiler because he kind of works towards this. And so this is the end of his class. He discusses this. Rashi, Avodah Zarah 10a is describing the Roman Empire and Edom and the pagan festivals that were popular at that time. In there, Avodah Zarah refers to the book Obadiah. It's a biblical book, Obadiah, verse 2 states, referring to Edom as being the least among the nations. Now, Edom at the time of the Roman Empire, or at the time of the Talmud, was also a reference to the Roman Empire. So in the Talmud, they're continuing where the least among nations. The Talmud continues with their script and language were borrowed from another nation. So that's to say that the Romans had a script and a language that was not their own. They were nations, and they didn't even have their own language, rather they got it from someone else. Rashi's commentary to this continues, others wrote their books for them. Now, that's all we have on Rashi that's available in the Talmud that has the Rashi commentary. However, that's a censored Rashi commentary. And Dr. Rabbi Schneur Lehman asked the question, how can we say that the Roman, even if we claim they had a script and a language they got from the nation, how can we others wrote their books? Other Romans had their own books. So he's confused by this Rashi commentary. However, as the rabbi speaks at the end of his share, so this is a spoiler. Rashi's commentary in the censored part of the commentary continues. So others wrote their books for, namely, Paul and the people, all of them Jews. Language refers to grammatica, the Latin spoken by the priests. They, the Jews, transformed the language into an obscure one in order to separate them from Israel. They, the Jews, were not apostates. Rather, they acted from the best of intentions so as to benefit the Jews. They impersonated priests and ordained all the Christian laws and customs and books, as is explicitly as is stated explicitly in the Yeshu narrative. So the Toledot Yeshu narrative, which here it varies somewhat from the Sefer Toledot Yeshu book that we have available to us today. Apparently, Rashi had an earlier version of this that stated these things as being three. You have three people who were authentic Jews. Now, according to Toledot Yeshu, it refers to one person, and he was a rabbi who was sort of amongst the sages, and he went into a secretive, sort of a double agent role for the purpose of corrupting Christianity. Early Christianity was already corrupted, but his goal was to go in there to make it so corrupted that regular Jewish people would have nothing to do with it. And basically, the Sefer Toledot Yeshu the description given refers to Paul, although the name given is Simon Simon Bar Kokhba, who I would suggest is part of the midrashic format, the parable format of Sefer Toledot Yeshu. It seems to refer to Paul. And in the Rashi commentary, we have Paul as well as Simon, Peter, and John. So within these people who are described as authentic Jews, who in order to separate Christianity away from the Jewish people, created this New Testament, what we call the New Testament. And while the of the Rashi that the Rabbi Doctrine had certain difference between that and then what's available in the source sheet that's available on the same page, the same website. It does. The other version does not actually explicitly say Latin. It just simply says the language of the priests. Could refer to Greek, which the New Testament was first available in Greek. Maybe it was Latin and then translated into Greek. But it was first Greek. So either way, it's saying that these rabbis were the ones who created this obscure language. They took language either way. They took a language that was not something the Jewish people would use, Greek or Latin. It would not be acceptable to Jewish people, and they created customs from people to stay away from Christianity. Next amount, which you can take it or leave it, is that time that has happened century was a large, what we take today consider Noahide, but at the time it was called non-Jewish people who were interested in Torah, interested in the God, attached themselves to the Jewish people. Now the Jews, then 10 of the name of the peoples of the world, and non-Jews.
I have to pause it right there. What he said, I think, sums up right there everything that he said. He was like, I'm gonna repeat it right back what he just said.
A large group of non-Jews, and they created customs that were different from the Jewish customs. So the Jewish people would stay away from Christianity. Now I'm going to give my own extra amount, which you can take it or leave it, is that happened in the first century. There was a large, what we would take today consider Noahide, but at the time it was called the fears, the large God of Israel, themselves to the Jewish people. Now, when the Jewish people are
boom, right there, the same still holds in 2025, right? I don't care if you believe every word of the Torah. I don't care if you believe every word of the Tanakh, the Talmud, the New Testament Bible, right? All you are doing, if you are not from that area, if you are not from the Middle East, if you're not Greek, if you're not Egyptian, if you're not Palestinian, if you're not Syrian, I would even stretch it the whole Middle East. Well, fuck, if you ain't from the Middle East, right? This shit has nothing to do with you. And what you are doing is you are appropriating something that has nothing to do with you historically, genetically, or even literally. It has nothing to do with you. So I just don't see why people attach themselves to these Middle Eastern / Greek philosophies. I don't get it.
The part that I noticed was
A lot of things that he had to say had to do with groups of three.
Hmm.
And you will notice that in a lot of pagan witch lore, it's groupings of three. I do believe that this particular book that we are reading today, we are talking about today, has found itself into the witch lore.
I agree. I agree. Um, Too many different people done touched these scriptures and just ran wild with them. The more I dig into it, and I'm
That's what
really,
I said. He's like, this is my personal opinion, and how you feel about that is up to you. But he went on to give his opinion, just as we are bouncing opinions off of one another right now. Opinions based on facts. We're not trying to
hmm
change none of the facts, but
hmm
still, an opinion.
the only thing I think that's wrong with him per se is he's boring as a motherfucker. Sitting there listening to it, like I lost interest quite a few times listening to it. But once I heard him say that, I'm like, okay. But yeah, I think he was just basically stating what everyone opinions is, like you said, in groups of three, throwing some historical facts in there. But his opinion, is his opinion. I really don't even look at it as an opinion. It's kind of
But now you
factual.
see there, but now you see the American fascination with movies like the 300.
Hmm. Because there's truth in it. There's truth in it. However you look, the movie 300. I'm not gonna say it's historically accurate, but it's not historically inaccurate. You can't make that claim because there is truth to it. Some of these groups of people did the things that they did, that they said, and they definitely existed. So I don't know. I'm gonna let him finish out real quick.
Strong. Then 10 of of the peoples of the world, non-Jews, 10 Gentiles can attach themselves to a Jew. The Jewish people are strong; they can handle it, and they can go and they can worship God. That works when the Jewish people are strong. When the Jewish people are not strong, which is what happened about the same time that this all happened, the second temple was destroyed, and the beginnings of the Roman exile was occurring at this time. The Jews were in a state of flux; they were in a state of difficulty, and when that happens, it's not safe for a lot of Gentiles to be. At that point, they'll be pulling the Jewish people down. Instead of the Jewish people lifting the Gentiles up, they'll be the Gentiles will be pulling them down. So there was a necessity at that time to separate the non-Jews away from the Jews. So I would argue that the creation of Christianity also served the purpose not only of protecting the Jewish people from this heresy of Jesus, but also served the purpose of giving the God-fearers of the day something to work with, something that they would be attracted to and they would follow. Thus, protecting the Jewish people and at the same time helping the God-fearers while they would also be going through a parallel time of exile. Today, we find a lot of the God-fearers coming out of Christianity, rediscovering the Judaism, rediscovering the path of the Noahide. And we should also appreciate, while we understand that these are mistakes that exist in Christianity, much of the Christian doctrines are mistakes. They're not totally correct. Well, we should still appreciate
Uh-uh.
what John, Paul, and Simon Peter fears for the Noahides. We should appreciate them and hold them in a certain measure of respect.
No, I definitely disagree with that last statement. I shouldn't
Even those
respect it.
authors are real. Show me a burial site, a painting, a picture, anything,
Anything, anything to prove
a
that they
birth
existed.
record.
Exactly. So I'm not going to be respectful for people because they made up their own lie. I'm not going. I'm not going to. And then on top of that, you don't even know who wrote that. Like to your point, NJ. Right? We have no idea who wrote any of the Gospels. Any of them. Any of them. all anonymous, every last one of them, and they all are dependent on each other. They all have been read from each other, every last one of them.
Imagine all the videos that you have ever watched on YouTube 500 years from now. What's going to be the debate?
Mm, good question. That's a good question. I don't know. The authenticity, which one's real, which one was me, which one wasn't. I don't know.
Mine is always going to be, did they exist? Because they never did it under their own name. So were they really an author? Did they really write it? Where did they get the ideas from?
That's true. That's true. I just don't. I still don't like. To me, this book just adds more mystery to it. Right? Again, we haven't even really spoke upon or touched on the actual book itself, right? Or the verses in it. We haven't even got there, and we're already an hour into the shit. But the validity of the book and the timeline of the book and how it was uh, composited um, just makes me not believe even more. Because again, these are closer to an actual real source based off just language than the Holy Bible will ever be. And I could see just from the dating of these manuscripts that it would have been impossible for that person to actually have known Jesus. But it would have been way more possible for that person to actually have known him than Paul, Peter, Luke, John, Mark, or any of the rest of them, based off of the fact that you spoke the same language as him. It's kind of like, as you said, a couple hundred years from now, you're going to ask, well, who's the author? Did they really make this material? Ideas, blah, 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 blah. It's like a record label, right? They're going to get all the credit for it, or a patent. Somebody poor made up this idea, and just because you got some fucking money, it's yours. So,
That's why I got
Jesus,
4th of Black History Month. And these things were all made and incorporated by Black people, but these people are the ones who get the credit for it because they went down to the patent office and patented it without telling you that a Black person couldn't use the patent office back then. It wasn't even an option, and they didn't care what skin tone you were. There was no passing at the patent office. They wanted your birth record.
right? It makes no sense. The term Jesus Christ should have an R with a circle around it. It truthfully should.
What does that mean? Copyrighted or written or something like that?
Hmm. It should, because
Uh,
it's all it is. It's just a story. It's just a collection of different stories from different people that never met him or whatever. And this is just another example of it. I'll read a little bit more, but I really don't see no reason to keep going on and on and on and on and on and on, because the validity of this manuscript is zero. But I think there's less steps in it than the Bible, because, now that I know about the Dead Sea Scrolls, how they obtained them, when they obtained them, some people were alive, were still alive right now when they obtained them, right? So there's no way I could believe that shit.
those, right. Like the people who found them are the ones doing the testing to prove and date them as authentic. And I'm like, how you gonna find it and prove it at the same time? You can't do both. There's supposed to be two independent studies: the people who found it and the people who proved that what they found is what they said they found.
I mean, yeah, okay, so you found them. It's just writing on a piece of paper. It don't prove shit. It
Well,
don't prove
look at
nothing.
the age of the paper. Yeah, we can all get aged paper. It's a craft. It's a craft. Like you can look on Reddit or whatever in the crafting section, and it'll tell you how to make authentic old paper, how to make the ink seem as though it's been around for centuries.
All that is, all that means is just okay. We figured out a way to stop things from biodegrading, or it didn't biodegrade fast enough. Eventually, it will. Eventually, I don't care what I don't give a fuck what it is, especially paper, because the way it's made and the materials it's made from or whatever. So it don't really matter. And besides all that, if his hand ain't on it, if his blood ain't on it, he didn't sign his name, which he didn't have a name. And this document kind of proves it as well. There's no point of discussing it. Uh, Let me
I
read
don't
a
know
little bit
about
more.
that, but you ain't getting in mine without a fingerprint. So I know that kings and queens used to sign with seals, but and also there was blood in some of them seals, just so later on you could DNA test to make sure that it was signed by that that person.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, I didn't know why they did it in blood, but to your point, yes, a lot of people sign things in blood. I thought it was just more because of the coloring situation, that lack of ink and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was more of that type thing. But you're all right. There's no real proof that this man existed, and I've looked and I've searched, and I can't find it. So I'm just gonna read from Chat GPT, and I'm probably gonna get out of here. I might play another video. Let's see, this one's short. The reading anyway. Toledot Yeshu is a medieval Jewish text that presents an alternative and often polemical biography of Jesus of Nazareth. It is not considered part of the Jewish canon, nor is it a representative of mainstream Jewish theology or beliefs. Rather, it appears to have been written in response to centuries of Jewish persecution and serves as sacramental counter narrative to Christian Gospels. Key points: the origins and the date. The Toledot Yeshu likely began circulating in oral form by the early Middle Ages, possibly around the 6th to 9th century CE, and was written down in various forms in later centuries. It has multiple versions across Jewish communities, uh, Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and Yemenite, with considerable variations in content and tone. Context: the text portrays Jesus, Yeshu, as the illegitimate son of a woman named Miriam and a Roman soldier named Panthera or Pandera. It includes stories of Jesus learning sorcery in Egypt and using it to deceive people into thinking he was performing miracles. He is said to have stolen Tetragrammaton, the divine name of God, from the temple to perform his magic. The narrative usually ends with Jesus being executed and his body disgraced, in contrast to the Christian accounts of resurrection and ascension. The purpose and tone. Toledot Yeshu is not a theological document, but more of a satirical or polemical work reflecting interreligious tensions between Jews and Christians. It may have served as a form of cultural resistance and self defense during times when Jews faced forced conversions, inquisitions, and anti Jewish persecution. Reception. The text has been condemned by both Jewish and Christians in different periods. Jewish authorities often discouraged its use or reading, considering it potentially inflammatory and unrepresentative of Jewish thoughts. It was used by Semites in Christian Europe to excuse Jews of blasphemy and and foment hatred. Modern scholarly interest. Today's scholars study the Toledot Yeshu not for its historical accuracy, but as a window into Jewish Christian relations, medieval satire, and religious polemic literature. Okay. So, from that uh, explanation, basically they look at it as satirical material, which is satire meant to be funny. Uh, they are basically saying that it was a Jewish person's response to the persecution that we have always been traditionally been told that they have faced. I'm not saying that there's not truth to that, because there is. I'm sure a lot of them during those times, from what we call how we date things now, 2025, from 2 AD probably to 400, 500. I'm pretty sure a lot of the people that were in that area that had a Jewish belief system or what's the other one? As we call them, paganistic uh, religious system. I'm pretty sure some of them were persecuted. I'm pretty sure some of them were unalived. I'm pretty sure some of them were forced to convert. So I can understand the situation from all aspects. Everyone is saying that this book is not legitimate as far as accuracy, as far as legitimacy of Jesus, his life, or things like that, right? I would have to look at it from the Jewish perspective in that case, because when you do the root of their religion, it starts with them, right? I'm not saying that their religion is true or factual or anything like that, but it's clearly that uh, Christianity is a remix of it. It's clear that Islam is a remix of the both of them. So I'm going to have to take their perspective on it, as it not being a historical document, and it's not from their point of view. They don't feel like that. I don't know why it was created if you don't feel like that, but here we are.
It was created for satire. It's like the comedian's version. It's like the comedian's version of religion. Like if you're going to say that you're Jewish and your Christian friends are getting on your nerves, read this book. It'll give you creative comebacks where no one is offended, and you should not be able to be harmed for blasphemy. That's how I see it. That's how I look at it. These things you can say and not be blasphemous.
It's kind of like it would kind of be like a book of apologetics for a Jewish person, right?
See, there you go. You worded it perfect.
If they
There you
got
go.
into a debate, they can just say boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
But I don't blame them because you know what? I don't. Jewish people, I don't necessarily have a particular issue with them. Well, I don't have a particular issue with anyone, right? Because they're more of like leave me alone. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them can be aggressive. Some of them can be, but just leave them the fuck alone. And then we got people that
I
stole
don't
from their
consider
religion and tell them
them
they're wrong.
aggressive doing I only consider them aggressive when it comes to politics. That's the only time I can see the religion getting in the way, getting in my lane. That's the only time I can see religion getting in my lane is when they
Hmm.
start talking about politics and they start wanting to bring in the money. Yeah. I understand that you guys, are into banking. You enjoy your banking. You have found the ins and outs to banking. But I would like to show you where your banking in America has been detrimental to people like me. And that's where I start getting aggression from the Jewish community right there. As soon as I want to point out where their banking methods have not been good for the nation that I reside in.
Right. That's political though. It has nothing. That has nothing to do with the religious belief. Now that I've learned more, I know that most of them are ethnically that religion. You know, but again, if you're the originator of something, right, and another group of people comes around and tells you wrong and accuses you of something that you did not do historically, they did not kill Jesus. They did not. If he existed, which I'm saying he didn't, Jewish people did not unalive him. It was the Romans, right? And you still will blame them because they don't believe he was him. Oh, it's your fault because you didn't believe it. What? What part of logic or sense does that fucking make? That does not make any fucking sense. You're the one who did it. And then you went back and said, oh, we made a mistake because y'all didn't believe it. So we killed him. So it's your fault. Fuck out of here. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. That's the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard.
Do they really be going back and forth like that? See, I got out of the Bible
Yeah.
a while back, and I'm glad I did now. I'm glad.
Yes. That's their listen, they have no other argument. They have no other argument. Okay, think about it. Okay, is this the God of Israel? Yes. Is the Torah the first 5 books of the Bible? Right. Okay, you lost right there. You lost right there. And the reason why you lost right there, because that clearly shows that it was one thing and then you call it something else because that's how you feel. How you gonna tell the people who wrote it that's not what it is? Then add extra stuff to it and tell them, oh, that part that you said in the beginning, that was right. But now this part that we added is even righter, even more correct. But y'all killed him and y'all wrong. That don't add up. That don't add up. Muslims do it too. How old is the fucking? How old is the goddamn Quran? Oh, well, it was in 670 AD. Okay, so you didn't copy from Judaism or Christianity? No, as a Muslim, we believe that our book is older. How? But when you're so brainwashed, even when you know something's not true, you'll just make up a lie. So it's like the more you think about all this shit to believe it, you have to play stupid. You have to play stupid.
But then when you debate them, and you debate them with lies, they'll be like, "I won because you lying." I'm like, "Well, this whole debate is based on a lie." So I thought we could introduce new lies to go with the old lies. That's what I thought the rules was. If you're debating on a lie, you can't introduce a new lie.
Right. Just like when I break down the genealogy of Jesus, right? I'll show them on the screen what it says. Right.
His
Okay. So
grandmama was a hoe.
right. So Joseph, the book of Matthew says that Joseph is his father, showing the genealogy, right? It's showing the house of David, the bloodline of David. It's only talking about men. It's only talking about these all men's names. And Joseph, the earthly father, or whatever, however is the verbiage is, the father. So is that his dad? Yes. Okay, well, if that's his dad, then God can't be his dad, and then his mom's not a virgin, because that means he. What? Oh no, he's still the son of God. Okay, well then he's not the bloodline of David then. Yes, he is, because Mary is. See, because it says her name right after that. No, it says who she is, but it doesn't say who her father is. Right? Then you go to Luke, and fucking Joseph has a different father. The genealogy is different. So is this the infallible word of God? Yeah, you're just taking it out of context.
Which was it? Was it Luke or the other one that made the grandmama the hoe? Which one was that? That's the one that always fascinated me. Like, where was grandmama the hoe? Was it in Luke or the other one?
I don't even know. But clearly, there's we don't know whose father is whose. These people clearly was fucking. Right?
All over
Luke,
the place, every chance they got.
right.
Whether
And
they were
Luke,
circumcised or not, they was just jamming it in stuff, seeing what happened.
right. And then Luke himself, he's telling you he never met him. First 3 words of the shit. I mean, first 3 lines. He's telling you he don't know, right? Then Matthew, he doesn't even discuss meeting Jesus until chapter 9, verse 9. So where were you at before all this to obtain all this information about this man's life, including his genealogy, when you never met him until he was, according to your words, till about a year or two before he died? How you know all this shit? How you know all these stories that he did? And
Yeah,
clearly you got the information wrong.
we did get it wrong. Well, then never mind. I don't need to know how we knew.
No. I'm saying he's getting some of them wrong too, right? Because if I take that, if I still just stay on Matthew, right? The story about the Canaanite woman is contradicting to Mark, who has the same story. right? So they all contradict each other.
How could a
None of
Canaanite
them matter.
woman have the same story as a dude named Mark?
Because look, okay, look. So the story of the Canaanite woman, when he calls her a dog, blah blah blah. That's in Mark, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's in Mark and in Matthew, right? So Matthew uh, names her as a Canaanite woman. Mark does not describe her as that. Mark describes her as a Syrian Phoenician. That's Greek.
I would believe the first one before I believe the second one.
All I'm saying is, if one of them's true, then the other one is automatically a lie.
A
It's a con-
Phoenician Greek. Oh yeah, she would have been the pariah. She would. It would have been like off with her head. Like we don't even know why you're allowing her to breathe.
That's what I'm saying. So either way, I don't believe it, because if the story of Matthew is true, that makes the story of Mark not true. But if you really start debating with these people, right, the only one that they can really try to hang on to that actually met him was Mark. So either way, there's contradictions in the story. But again, I would have to say that the Toledot Yeshu is literature from the third century on that gives an alternative story of Jesus's life. And again, it's satirical. It's meant to be comedy. And it's also meant to make light of the tensions that have been going on with these two groups of people that have been, I guess, going back and forth for about 2,000 years. Whether the story is true or not, I don't believe it. But here we are. I'm definitely going to read more into this book. I actually want to know what it says. Good luck with, if you're actually looking it up, because you just noted to me a little bit ago that you haven't found an actual manuscript of this book or whatever. So I'm gonna look it up online and hopefully I can find it.
Oh, because that would be nice. I want to read an original version of the words myself, not someone reading it to me or an interpretation of what they read. I want to see what was written. And especially if they got more than one version. Like that's what keeps disturbing my soul. Like how you got more than one version of it.
I know different about how you got more than one version of the lie. It's just keep going and going and going and going and going and going. You know how it is. But I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Thank you again, NJ, for your help and your support. Thank you for coming up with the title of the show. Your input is always definitely needed and appreciated. Um, I'll definitely be back. Well, we'll definitely be back next week. I don't know what the title of the show is going to be, around maybe noonish, depending on how our lives are set up. And thank you again, everybody. You got
And
any final
remember to
quotes?
watch it all week, darn it, y'all. Come on out here and just watch the dang video. No, let me stop. Let me stop. Everybody have fun.
Definitely. No, you're right. All right. Thank you again, NJ. Y'all have a good evening. Oh, a good day.